I saw your mouth moving like you might have been talking, but you're definitely muted.
There we go. I wish I had a nickel, right? I'm usually pretty good at that. In fact, I think that may be one of only two times I've ever been told I'm on mute. So thank you, Wayne. I feel we have a special relationship now, you and I. Welcome everyone to Salt Project Open Hour for Salt Project Community Open Hour, excuse me, for June 30th. Happy 4th of July weekend to all of you. We're almost there, and excited to have you all here. Thanks for taking the time to check in with us. So here's where you can find more about the SALT project. Here's where we're located: YouTube, GitHub, Slack, Twitch, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, the Hacks podcast. So thanks for checking out all of our multiple resources and outlets, and for being involved with the SALT project community. Be sure to spread the word, will you? Let's get more people in here. This is the largest, friendliest, and most loyal community on earth. The agenda today: general updates with yours truly, and then welcome Derek. Welcome back, man. He's going to be presenting. Going to be talking a little bit about. I don't know if presenting is the right word, but he's got an announcement with regard to outside collaboration, and then our old pal Thomas Phipps. The Mr. Reliable is what I like to call him. When we don't have anything going on with community open hour, he's always there with stuff. So thank you, Thomas. So we'll talk about what's going on in the community forums. Elisa Rock. Why do I always screw that up? Something with the spelling. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Elisa Rock. I'll get it right. Elisa has some new stuff to talk about. She's been working on this forever. The new SALT install guide. It's been a thing. It has consumed her life, and we're excited to hear more about it coming up a little bit later on. Also, Pedro. Welcome, Pedro. He's going to be talking to us in a little bit as well. So that's what's going on. Let's get into it here. Open hour every first and third Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 11 to noon Mountain Time, and then you can do the math from there. Our next SALT Community Open Hour will be on July 14th. So be sure to, as they say, as the old phone lady said, please make a note of it. We'd like to invite you to join a SALT project working group if you haven't done so already. We have a bunch of them. Go to saltproject.io /home/working to learn more about the many different SALT project community working groups that we have. With that, let's throw it over to Derek. Thanks, man, for taking some time. And he's on mute. Yes.
The very first thing I started with is, can you hear me okay? Okay. Well then, I was going to actually talk about how some people may have received emails from GitHub or from VMware about if you are a non-VMware member of the SALT Stack organization on GitHub. And there's a little message in there that says, hey, by the way, you'll need to be given outside collaborator access. And what that's going to mean is that if you've been given specialized permissions by being inside of the SALT Stack org to repositories such as triage permissions, that sort of stuff, that we just need to sort of like flip a switch that will convert you over to having those same permissions, but you won't be part of the SALT Stack org anymore. This is just part of VMware's open source program office and how they manage their open source organizations. And the main difference is that you just won't be part of a team. When you're inside of an org, that gives you the benefit of being able to be a member of teams inside of an org. And then those teams can be applied to repositories that give you permissions. But we're just going to, when we flip the switch, it looks at what teams you're in and what permissions that you've inherited. And then it just applies them to each of the repo as an individual. So that's the main thing. We've already reached out to people I reached out yesterday to several people who we found to have those special permissions. If I haven't reached out to you and you have access to a repository, by the way, by reaching out, I do mean inside of the community Slack, the SaltStack community Slack. I'm Script Automate on that. And if I haven't reached out to you, please feel free to message me directly on there. And I'm in the process of just giving people the proper permissions that they need. Did a test yesterday. It worked pretty great. And we have until toward the end of July to do it. But it looks like I could probably just go ahead and start switching people over. If you are concerned, like, oh, I do XYZ, and you want to make sure that we could verify you still have the permissions you're used to, feel free to message me or inside of a private channel that I'm inviting some people to. And but yeah, that's kind of the main gist of things. And I don't think it will impact anything, because I think we used to use Teams for a triage assignment, maybe with issues and PRs, but that may not be the case anymore. And you will still have triage permissions. If you're already not what's called an outside collaborator, that's probably why I haven't reached out to you. And so your permissions would go unchanged and that membership would go unchanged. But that's kind of what's up with that. And I am going to post a message in the announcements channel in the community to the same effect.
Excellent. Thank you, Derek. Again, if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to Derek. You can also hit me up on Slack, and I'll get with Derek, or I'll help you out myself. So either way, you're covered. You're good to go. I know this is going to be kind of a confusing thing. A lot of people are very confused by that, me included. So Derek, much appreciated, man. Great information. Thomas Phipps standing by with what's happening in community forums. Take it away, sir.
Actually, this was going to be a couple of items, and then yesterday happened, and somebody came in that was using pillar.items in Jinja. Don't do that ever. The reason is because pillar.items will reach out to the master and have the master re-render your pillars. So every time you have a pillar.items in Jinja, it's going to do that, which is going to multiply the amount of work the master has to do for each minion. And up until yesterday, I thought it was not happening. Apparently there is a Stack Overflow and a Reddit thread that both recommend it. So pay attention, don't do it. There is a pillar dict that you can use, and if you need something direct, an actual salt module, use pillar.raw, which will do the same thing but for the in-memory already existing pillar.
All right, very good. Is that it? Anything else?
That's it.
Excellent. Okay, words to live by. Don't do it. Thank you very much, Thomas. Next up, now this is something I've been waiting for a very long time. I know she's worked on this forever. Round of applause, by the way, for Elisa Rock for taking the time to do this. This was a heavy lift. Thank you very much. Elisa, can you take a minute? Talk to us about it.
Yes, and can I still the screen share?
Yeah, of course. Here, by all means.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is an issue on GitLab that I'm going to drop into the chat right away. This is where you can kind of, this is what I'll be speaking from and where you can leave feedback. I'll talk more about leaving feedback in a second. But basically, we have a new salt install guide that we are launching, and we would like to open it up for feedback prior to the 3005 release, which is when this document will become official. So I wanted to quickly explain why I was working on this project. The main reasons are to basically improve the installation process. If you can't install salt, you can't use salt. So start at the beginning, make it nice and easy, make sure that it's a positive experience with salt, both for our salt community and also for dependent technologies like salt stack config and things like that. Another cool thing is that our installation process is changing for the better thanks to the new Tiamat system. And that was also because of that Tiamat packaging system that's coming out. Some of the install directions needed to change, and we needed to design a guide that could better support Tiamat. If you don't know what Tiamat is, it is an improved installation process that will install the version of Python that Salt needs to run. And it will also install any of the core Salt dependencies that Salt needs to do its basic things. So now you don't have to like hunt around and fish for all the dependencies that core Salt needs, and you just get it right out of the box. One little disclaimer to that is any kind of third-party modules that have additional dependencies beyond the core Salt dependencies, you still have to install those yourself. But other than that, Tiamat will make life better for everybody. So I have a topic more about Tiamat. If you want to read that, that's linked from the guide. And then lastly, it's just to make Salt a little bit more secure. This is something that the ASREs have wanted for a while, to have a separate domain name for the install directions separate from the repository. So those were some of the motivations behind this. Now, let me just give a quick tour of what we have here. This draft announcement will go away by the time we get released, but so basically on the homepage, you'll just have a quick welcome message. It'll tell you which versions of Salt are currently supported by the core Salt team, and it will link out to their, you can click on these and get their release notes, or you can click here. Announcements, here's where you can go for RSS feeds. And we just give like a quick installation overview for people who are new to installing Salt and need to kind of understand the basics of it for the first time. And it links out to every topic that you need. We also list a few alternative installations and configurations if you want to live dangerously, go your own way. So in terms of the organization of the guides, that's like the core installation stuff. We've got, here's those kind of before you start topics. Thanks to the recommendation of Thomas Fitt, I'm making sure that Bootstrap is adequately highlighted and people are encouraged to use it. But you can also click here and see any of the manual install directions by each operating system. So let's say we wanted to do Red Hat. You could click here to get to the Tiamat instructions for 9, 8, 7, etc. These are the ones that will be supported for 3005. So if you click here, you can kind of use these tabs to pick which version you want to install, whether you want latest, major, or minor. As you see, it doesn't have links yet. Those will be published when 3005 is published, so that won't show up until that happens. But that's basically what it will look like in terms of those instructions. Then we've got the post-installation steps here, since those are common to all installations, have some guidance on how to upgrade, and especially here's the topic about Tiamat if you would like to learn. In fact, I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. Tiamat. There's the stuff about Tiamat if you would like to begin kind of thinking about it, planning for Tiamat, and things like that. And then here, by popular request, we also have, everybody's been wondering, where's the list of supported operating systems? It's right here. It'll be here in the install guide permanently and forever. And we also have the version support lifecycle here. So if you want to see how long things are supported and what kind of support they'll get, that's there. We also added a topic that explains which version of Python we're supporting. And then down here, of course, if you want to, you can open up an issue. If you see a problem with this guide, open that up and it'll take you right to the repo where you can open up an issue. I'm going to put the link for that in there too. So this is where you can open up new issues and let us know if there's something. And here's how you can contribute. And here's just the raw repository. So that's basically what the guide is going to contain. So how can you give feedback? Well, I want to give a couple of disclaimers. which is when you give feedback, try to keep your comments restricted to the documentation itself and not the actual install process. I'm not saying you can't give that feedback. I'm just saying I can't do anything about it. I can, other than pass it along. That's all I can do. If possible, I would really like it if you could indicate whether something is a really big deal, like this is blocking, this will be a major impediment to your ability to use salt, or if it's kind of non-blocking, nice to have a preference. You can even say it's a strong preference or something like that. But I will prioritize blocking comments because I want to make sure that it looks good. I don't know if you like using conventional comments, but I really like using conventional comments as a way to indicate what type of a suggestion it is. Is it here's kind of the guide for, hey, praise is always welcome, by the way. Nitpicks, issues, questions, thoughts, chores, typos. It's really handy to kind of have comments labeled so I know how to treat them and know how serious they are. That just helps me to prioritize my work. So if you can use conventional comments, that'd be awesome, but you also don't have to. Now, if you don't have a GitLab account, that's cool. You can also leave it on the sister issue in the GitHub repository. However, unfortunately, Orange Dog has already gotten the dubious honor of being the first person to tell me everything that's wrong with the guide. So sorry, he took that first. You'll have to do that. You'll have to be second. Anyway, but go ahead and leave your community feedback. I'll do my best to take action on it within reason. And that's basically the new guide. So, all right, back over to you, Chunga.
That's very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's going to be very helpful on YouTube. Not at all surprised that Orange Dog was the first guy in. Well done. All right, let me share my screen again. See that? How Elisa does all that very complicated stuff and it takes me 10 minutes to figure out how to, there we go. All right, next up, Pedro, if you would please, you're up.
Hey, so about a week ago, I opened up a new SEP, which is the deprecation of the Dunder utils loader. The Dunder utils loader was, I don't know enough background, but it kind of simplifies the way you use the salt utilities because you don't have to import things, you just access them just the way that you access the salt loader. The problem with that, one of the problems with that is that we can no longer write utility modules without thinking that we're writing them for salt. What does this mean? If you follow that link, I will show you like 2 or 3 examples where we actually had not memory leaks, but memory consumption. Because the way the salt loader works is by reloading the module quite often. And Python, it's the standard library, and some of the library dependencies that we use are not ready for that kind of behavior. Which is also unexpected on Python. So Salt does a lot of things to make this work that is not regular Python stuff. And so what happens is on those reports, we keep adding a callback in a reference to some objects, and that just keeps piling up and increases memory usage. So that's one of the issues why this Dunder SEP was opened. The second reason for that is that the usage in Salt is not consistent. By consistent, I mean we sometimes import, like a regular import, and use the utility function, and sometimes they are used by Dunder utils. This means that it's not coherent. Mixed usage is scattered. Some users actually use Dunder utils to override some utilities, and I'm a strong opponent. If you read the SEP in my comments, you'll see that I'm a strong opponent. And I need to clarify that I opened this SEP as a person, not as part of the core team. By this, I mean, not all of the core team shares my strong beliefs or strong rejection of Dunder utils. Just to put that out. I think we shouldn't use it. Salt itself in the salt loader is a hack It has taken us this far. Probably if we were to write Salt again, we would probably do things differently, like not use Dunder globals, these Dunder utils. There are better ways, but we didn't knew better back then. And unwrapping all of this would be a huge undertaking and a huge job to do, and probably would break a lot of things. And that's why we won't be doing something like that. But Dunder utils, it's possible. It's still expected to do some damage, like breaking stuff. For that, there's a decorator that I've created, kind of a proof of concept to back up the SEP, which allows you to use the old utility function using Dunder utils, or you can import. If you use the old Dunder utils, you will get a warning to start moving away from that. And right now, I think I've made that like 2 major releases, but that's not written in stone. It can even be longer, the deprecation period. There are some comments against my position on the SEP. Some of them are valid. Some users just want to deliver utility modules to minions. And Dunder utils is a way of doing that. Some users suggest that we clean up the core of Salt and Dunder utils usage and allow anyone with third-party modules or Salt extensions to still use them. I would prefer not to, because in the end, whenever you see a problem with Dunder utils, Salt will get the bug report. And best case scenario, we will lose time triaging the issue, and it's not an issue with Salt. It's an issue with Dunder utils usage, because personally, I believe that utilities are supposed to be imported and used. Just that. So Dunder utils was nice until you have them. If the SEP gets enough agreement on that, Dunder utils will go away. There's also some users telling, okay, let's clean up Salt and let's use Dunder utils everywhere. Personally, no, let's not. Let's just not do that. The SEP is not final. I was updating the SEP with the comments that came in, and then there are actually quite a few arguments that have followed up since my last update to the SEP, which I need to, well, some of the ideas, some of the proposed ideas, I need to validate if it's possible. Like, for example, only allowing Dunder utils to exist for the utility modules that are loaded through the state system, so the underscore utils that we push to the minions, and so only have access to that. That would be a compromise. But again, until I think that that's the only way to do it, I'm still like trying to just get rid of utils and use the other utilities as how utilities should be done. So import and use them. Pass all arguments that you need and get the return values that the utility function will give you back. So feel free to read the SEP comment. Please read some of the comments that have been posted so that we don't repeat. I'm guessing that this will take a few iterations because this is a big undertaking, the job. So there's a lot of usage for this. And in order not to break everyone's setups while we deprecate, we will have to have massive coverage of the old way of using Dunder utils, the deprecated way, while we can use the new way. So yeah, at a high level, this is the SEP. I would like to have Dunder utils removed from Salt and basically everywhere. If there's enough reasons not to do that, let's try and find a compromise. But I would still like to not use Dunder utils in Salt at all. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Pedro. Well
Right.
done. Yeah, so, okay, tell you what, let's move on. I would suspect that there's going to be some commentary or questions there, so maybe we can get right into it. It's time for the Q&A. I like to call it Nick time. I'm sure there are a lot of you that have some questions today about the install guide and things like that, so let's get started. Who's up?
Well, I just wanted to share some flavor about the removing Dunder utils is, well, some flavor and some questions. I guess my question is like, if somebody is using utils in a way that would be impacted by this, I would be super excited to see that and learn what that looks like. But just to echo Pedro's comment about how exciting some of the bugs have been that we've found that are just basically utils either being abused or used normally. I don't really know, but also just causing massive problems and headaches. Yeah, that's basically the bulk of my experience with utils has been that. I do know that I'd read through a lot of the discussion. There was quite a lot of that on the PR, so if you're not familiar with the discussion, it's probably worth checking out because many things have been discussed there. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, utils has problems and can cause problems. I'm definitely in favor of removing that. One of the things that that discussion did actually spawn a little bit, at least in my head. I haven't gone over there to document that, but I will probably do that today or maybe tomorrow. Is that because we've talked about extensions quite a bit, and we're gonna be pushing towards getting salt extensions. That ecosystem just built out a lot more, and that did come up in that discussion on the SEP. But one of the things that we don't really have kind of nailed down and like, oh yeah, that's a simple, elegant, salty way to do things is distributing those extension modules to your minions like you might with utils and whatnot. So I haven't played around with doing anything there, but I do have some ideas about how that could work. And how we could make that just a really straightforward process for salt users, to where they don't really have to learn anything new, as it were, other than just, oh yeah, do this salty thing, and then you'll have your extension. So, anyways, that's just my 2 cents, 25 cents. I don't know what's inflation these days. $7. Yeah, it's some amount.
Nice. Anything else, Nick? He's on mute. Yes. We're 3 now.
I think he's just having mic problems.
Yeah,
Jose?
Like I did earlier.
I talked about this earlier, that my computer likes to mute me even though Zoom's not muted. So so I think the main thing that I wanted to ask was if we have a semi-firm date for 3005 yet.
So that's actually a little delayed, week and a half. We were trying to get the RC out by the 27th, but that obviously hasn't happened. I'm hoping that we get the PRs in today or tomorrow, and then we can tag and progress the release. So the original estimate was end of July, so I'm thinking beginning of August.
Okay. And like everything's more or less locked down at this point. It's just going through the final processes.
Yeah, the only other thing that's not locked down is just getting MAC TM-out packages in the pipeline. They're building, we just need to add tests. So that's the only thing we're not certain about time estimate wise.
Awesome,
but
thank
we're
you.
thinking about another couple of days on that. But we're at least getting close to tagging and testing, so that can all happen at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. By the way, can I take a moment while we're pondering our next questions and salute Gareth Greenway for his amazing background? that he has switched to during open hour. I think we should heretofore refer to Gareth as the Salt Bay, just for that background alone. Outstanding. Anything else? Any other questions?
Yes, a few months ago, you had mentioned you might have an announcement about SaltConf. I was wondering if we have any update on that, given that it's getting quite late in the year, and whether Broadcom acquisition has killed that or.
So Gary, it's I noticed your Slack, and when you asked that question in Slack, and I was conspicuously absent. My absence was intentional.
I gathered that. That's why I wanted to put you on the spot now where you can't escape.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much. Here's the deal with SaltConf. There have been some changes that I am working on getting a cohesive answer together to give you. I know that's a horrible non-answer. There have been some changes within the senior C-level corporate structure of VMware, and they've made some changes to the way open source events are run. So we are working with them right now, as I have been secretly in private working with them to try and get something together that will make everyone happy. That process continues. So there have been a number of different things that have been floated. There have been a number of things that have been rejected by yours truly, to be perfectly honest with you. So we're working on it. I have secured a virtual hosting platform, the same one that we've used over the past couple of years, called Hopin, so that in a pinch, or if we call an audible or contingency, whatever you want to call it, we can still do a virtual event. We've been in the process of exploring doing an in-person event rather than a virtual event as we used to do, the last one being back in 2019. One thing that I can tell you is that VMware is having an event at the end of August 29th, called VMware Explore. It's a big event. It used to be called VMworld. There's going to be an open source track at VMware Explore. And in that open source track, we are going to be represented prominently. We're going to be featured. Salt will be featured, and IDA Project will both be featured in that open source track. So if you'd like, you can, I had intended on doing an announcement today, Gary, to your point. I was going to make a big announcement, but yesterday some things had changed, and I had to pull that slide from the deck. Some of you, Elisa and Pedro, are working on the decks. You may have actually seen that in there, and I had it removed. I hope to have some information for you soon. So thank you for your patience. Please know that this is something that I have been working on, that we have been working on here at SALT for the entire year. January 3rd is when this all started, and we're still trying to sort it out. So thanks for your patience. And I would encourage everyone to go check out the VMware Explore landing page. Just go Google VMware Explore, and it'll take you right to everything that's going on there. I think it's going to be pretty cool. And there will be members of the core team that will be featured in these open source tracks. So most notably Wayne Werner, who, we are talking about that a little bit later on today, Wayne and I. So thanks for your patience with that. And let me see, do I get points? Hold on. I'm just going to hop into the chat here really quick. Do I get points for being
No,
the one who first
don't read that
suggested?
one.
Oh, yeah. I did that intentionally, just so you know.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
commenting on Wayne. I was the one who suggested Hopin originally. So
Oh, is that right? That was you
Yes.
that suggested Hopin.
yeah, we use it for
Okay.
other I've used it for other online conferences, and I was like, hey, Alex and Janae, what about this? So
Oh, that's interesting, because when we first decided to use Hopin, I fought it tooth and nail. Can I be honest with you?
that's so
I did.
funny.
I fought it like crazy. I've done a number of virtual events throughout my my marketing career, and I've always used a company called V Conference and fought it like crazy. And now I love Hopin, and we're working it out. We're working out a deal with Hopin right now so that we can secure something at some point. So apologies to all of you for not having something more concrete, especially you, Gary, because you've been asking and I have intentionally not answered. Any other questions? Do we have other questions?
There were some questions in the chat about Tiamat.
Mhm.
Do you want me to read them out?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Does Tiamat replace distribution-based installs? Gareth answered that one, but do you want to say your answer, Gareth? Maybe not. Gareth, can we hear you?
Also on mute.
Muted.
No, he's probably
4.
having the same problem Nick had.
Number 4.
I can pitch in since Derek isn't willing to do so. So for the distributions and the distribution versions that Salt supports, you can see those in the Salt install guide. We will provide system packages and they will be based on Tiamat. So we will still be using Tiamat, and but you can just like apt install or whatever yum install Salt, and it will be like business as usual. I believe we will have a period where we'll be supporting some older versions, but I'm not certain of this information myself. So instead of saying garbage, I prefer just to say this. Yes, we will provide system packages and they will be based on Tiamat.
There was one other question that I think Megan
Yeah,
answered.
hold on, Elisa. Hold on, Elisa. We've
Oh,
got,
okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're okay. Let me see. Someone was asking a question, but they're on mute. So it's number 5 now.
Let's say R. Calicott. Is that how you pronounce
Yeah,
your last name?
Yeah, R. Calicott. Calicott. You've got the squirrel behind you.
I say I
You're
can see you're
unmuted.
unmuted, but no sound is coming through. if you're on Linux like many of us, I've discovered that clicking audio settings will sometimes just magically make it work.
All right, you hang tight. No, you still can't hear you. Elisa, what were you going to say? And we'll come back to you.
Sorry, I had already scrolled. I'll go back. Will Tiamat change how additional Python libraries are installed? Megan had an answer for that, I think.
Megan?
Yes, I can also pitch in.
Hey, Joe!
So yes and no, and I'll explain this. So we actually had a discussion internally. Since Tiamat basically ships Python and all of the dependencies, we had a discussion of what was the most expected behavior. And we came to the conclusion that the most expected behavior for people using, for example, pip installed in the state tree was to extend Salt, like extend the library to access a new module that needs a dependency. And so for that kind of behavior where you want to add dependencies to Salt, you can use pip installed just as you used until today. If, however, you want to pip install into the system Python, which is not the Python version that Salt is using, you will have to provide the pip bin path. I believe that's the argument named, or bin env, and Salt will discover the appropriate binary to pip install into the system Python. So that's the yes and no in the explanation behind that.
All right, very good. Now, a very important question in the chat comes from Thomas Phipps. Chunga, are you going to update your browser anytime soon? And the answer is, we'll have to wait and see. Actually, the truth is that I do a lot of audio and video production, and a lot of those platforms, audio and video production platforms, they have to be able to sync with certain updates with certain programs. And so they'll tell me, do not update your Google, do not update your iOS until we say it's okay. With that said, I think that I think I'm well within that window. So I make a note in my head, don't update this. I'll go back and check, Thomas. And I know for our people, for our type, you see that update and you can't help it, right? You just want to get up there and start clicking to make sure it works. So I will do that, Thomas, and thank you for pointing it out. You and Gary get the gold stars today for sure. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Caliote? Cali? Explain it to us. We still can't hear you. I'm glad we can't read lips. All right, we yeah. Anyway, anybody else while he's still working on that?
I have a suggestion off of the back of the Salt Conf discussion.
Yes.
I have a concert that I potentially want to go to in Salt Lake at the end of September. Can we just do like our own like slap together meetup or something like that? I'll go to that.
Yeah. I love that idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, definitely, most definitely. So here's one thing that I can tell you, and it's whether you approve of this, whether it sits well with you or not, it's entirely up to you. We will not be allowed to call it SaltConf for reasons that are completely out of my control. We will have to call it something else, and we'll have to brand it as something else per corporate leadership. With that said, does that really matter? My argument is no. We all know what it is. We all know it's SaltConf. We all know what it's going to be. We can call it Granny Sweet Tea, for heaven's sakes, and we're all going to show up and know exactly what it is. So it will not be called SaltConf, but we are working on putting something together that we can all get together and do what we have done traditionally now for, I think, 9 years, something like that. It's a big deal to me, and I know it's a big deal to all of you. And I give you my word, I am putting in the yeoman's battle on this to make something happen. Poor Wayne has been in the loop from the very beginning. He's seen me on the Zoom calls drinking hairspray, trying to sort all this out. But we will get it figured out, I promise, and I will definitely keep you in the loop on everything. We'll make something work. But that's a great idea, Nick. I love that idea. Okay, let's go back to Squirrel. Squirrel.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Fantastic.
All right. I was going to ask, are there any TM-based distro packages available for testing at this time, or would you have to wait until the August timeline?
So I
posted a link to the directions on how to test the nightly builds. By nightly, it's every other day, and it just builds off of what's in master.
Thanks, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a long way to go for just one. You might as well ask us another way. Do you have anything else? No, is that it?
So I have some test stuff that I write. I test our formulas here, and I'm just noticing that we've got an internal library that we use that runs salt calls repeatedly through our PyTest testing timeline. Is there a way to consolidate all of these salt calls from, let's say, 200 functions into like one top level class inside of PyTest? Maybe this is too much of a question to ask.
I was gonna say probably.
Yeah, we need more context.
but
I know.
I think the answer to both is probably. Yeah, if you want to dump that in like the develop channel on, or possibly even the formulas working group channel in the community Slack, and just say like ping me and or Pedro, I'm sure we can be like, oh yeah, totally, that's how to do that, or like, oh no, what you're doing looks reasonable.
Okay.
Once we see, we'll see.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks to all of you for being here. It's awesome, especially going into a holiday weekend. Thank you. If there's nothing else, if there are no other questions, I know. Oh, we have more. Okay, let's.
Nope, I got a quick question, and it's actually for the non-core team members here, the community. So along the lines of what Elisa presented with the new install guide, we're starting to rethink what the idea of like what the repo.saltproject.io sites, like its purpose. Like obviously it'll be like where you like what you add into your operating systems or where you get packages. But as far as like if you look at it today, it has instructions on where to get the packages, like how to install them, like what repos to add, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that stuff is being moved into the install guide. So our question for you all is, if anyone uses it today, like what do you use it for? Like is it just like, okay, I need to install Salt on this particular OS, I go there, you get the information, and then I'm good to go? Or like what would you all want to see it and how it's used in the future? And if you want to think about it until next time, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to be an overnight thing, just something we're kicking around in terms of, now that the new install guide is there, like what does the repo site look like?
Something I do want to just assure people about is that I'll make sure that the existing install instructions that are on repo that we retain an archive of them for past versions and things like that. We're working on that functionality, but I just want to mention that don't worry, that content won't just magically disappear. We'll make sure it's somewhere accessible.
All right, very good. Is there anything else? No, we're good. Okay, excellent. Wayne, sir, if you would, the highlight of every SALT project community open hour. Will you send us off with a joke?
So I always hate it because you know, I'm throughout the week I'm like, oh yeah, that's great, and then I get here and I'm like, oh crap, what was that? But no, so and guess in the spirit of all the changes that are happening all over the place, you know, just to throw some more changes out there, just imagine that if we switch from pounds to kilograms here in America, if we just did that overnight, can you imagine it? There'd be mass confusion.
Very good.
That was painful, Wayne. That was exceptionally painful. All right, very good. Let's hear it for Wayne Werner. Excellent. Thank you very much, man. All right, if there's nothing else, happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the long break, and thanks for taking the time, all of you, for being a part of SALT Project Open Hour. It's much appreciated, and we will see you on July 14th. Have a great holiday, everybody. Bye.